The moment the health inspector chained the front door shut, everyone thought the little bakery was finished. But no one noticed the elderly man across the street, because he wasn't watching the bakery. He was watching Karen. And what he pulled from his coat pocket 20 seconds later would destroy everything she had spent 10 years building. The smell of fresh cinnamon rolls still drifted through Maple Street as customers stood frozen on the sidewalk. Some held coffee cups. Others still clutched warm paper bags filled with pastries they had bought only minutes earlier. No one understood why 2 county inspectors, 3 police officers, and the president of the Willow Creek HOA had suddenly surrounded Emma Carter's family bakery. Emma didn't cry. Not yet. She simply stared at the heavy chain wrapping around the bakery doors. Above them hung the wooden sign her mother had carved with her own hands 23 years earlier. Carter's Bakery. The words weren't just a business name. They were the last promise Emma had made to her dying mother. Karen Blake folded her arms with a smug smile. "I warned you," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Businesses like this don't belong in our community." Several neighbors looked away. Nobody wanted to challenge Karen. Not after years of fines, threats, lawsuits. People had learned something about Karen. If she didn't like you, she didn't just complain. She made your life disappear. Emma looked at the sign above the door. Her fingers trembled. Not because of the bakery, because she remembered another morning. Another promise. 8 months earlier. The hospital room smelled like flowers and medicine. Emma sat beside her mother's bed, holding a frail hand that once kneaded bread before sunrise every morning. Margaret Carter smiled weakly. "Promise me one thing." Emma nodded through tears. "Anything. Don't sell the bakery." Emma swallowed hard. "But the medical bills." Margaret slowly shook her head. "This bakery was never about bread." Emma frowned. "It was about giving people a place where they felt loved." A long silence filled the room. Then Margaret whispered something Emma never forgot. "One day, someone will try to take it away." Emma squeezed her hand tighter. "I won't let them." Her mother smiled. "I know." Those were the last words she ever heard. Back in the present, the chain clicked shut. The sound echoed through Emma's chest like a door closing forever. Karen stepped closer. "You have 24 hours to remove everything." Emma stared at her. "This bakery has been here longer than this HOA." Karen smiled. "Not anymore." Then she walked away, confident, victorious, or so she thought. Across the street, an old man wearing a faded navy jacket quietly watched everything. Nobody recognized him, not even Karen. He simply removed an old notebook from his pocket, wrote something inside, then disappeared. Emma never noticed him. She was too busy watching customers leave with tears in their eyes. One little girl pressed her hand against the locked bakery window. "Mama, who's going to make Grandma's birthday cake now?" Emma turned away before the child could see her crying. That evening, the bakery sat dark for the first time in 23 years. Emma remained inside packing flour sacks into boxes. Every shelf held memories. Every tray, every recipe, every scratch in the wooden counter carried her mother's fingerprints. She picked up an old recipe book. Inside was a folded envelope. She frowned. She had never seen it before. On the front, written in her mother's handwriting, were 6 simple words. "Only open if they win." Emma's heartbeat quickened. She slowly reached for the seal. Before she could open it, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Emma wiped her eyes and unlocked the back door. Standing there was Daniel Brooks, the retired mailman who had delivered letters to Maple Street for almost 40 years. His face looked pale. "Emma, you need to see something." He handed her an old photograph. Emma stared at it. It showed her mother, standing beside a man she'd never seen before, both smiling in front of the bakery. "What is this?" Daniel hesitated. "I promised your mother I wouldn't tell you." Unless Karen crossed the line. Emma looked back at the picture. "Tell me what?" Daniel lowered his voice. "The bakery isn't the real reason Karen wants this building." Emma's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Before Daniel could answer, a black SUV slowly rolled past the bakery. It stopped for only 3 seconds. The tinted window rolled down just enough for someone inside to take a photograph of the building. Then it drove away. Daniel's face lost all color. "Oh no." Emma looked at him. "What?" He whispered only 4 words. "They found it first." Emma felt the air leave her lungs. "Found what?" Daniel looked toward the disappearing SUV. "The thing your mother spent 20 years hiding." Emma froze. What did she hide? Daniel looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then he leaned closer. Before he could speak, A loud crash shattered the bakery's front window. Glass exploded across the floor. Emma screamed. A brick rolled across the room. Wrapped around it was a handwritten note. Emma's hands shook as she picked it up. It read, "Tomorrow, the bakery disappears forever." Emma slowly looked toward the broken window. But whoever had thrown it was already gone. She had no idea. Karen had just started a war she could never finish. Emma stood motionless, the crumpled note still shaking in her hands. Tomorrow, the bakery disappears forever. For several long seconds, no one spoke. The only sound was the wind pushing broken glass across the old wooden floor. Daniel slowly picked up the brick. "This wasn't meant to scare you," he whispered. "It was meant to make you leave before you discover the truth." Emma looked at him. "What truth?" Daniel took a deep breath. 20 years ago, your mother helped save this town." Emma frowned. "What does that have to do with Karen?" "Everything." The next morning, before sunrise, Emma unlocked the back office where her mother had kept decades of records. Inside the envelope marked, "Only open if they win," she found more than a letter. There was an old property survey, a handwritten journal, and a sealed cassette tape. The first page of the journal read, "If you're reading this, someone is trying to steal more than our bakery." Emma's heartbeat quickened. Page after page revealed something she had never known. Years earlier, a powerful real estate group had quietly tried to buy the entire block. Every business owner sold, except Margaret Carter. She refused, not because of money, because she discovered the contracts were built on fraudulent property descriptions. If everyone signed, several elderly families would lose land they legally owned. Margaret exposed the scheme. The deal collapsed. But one sentence near the end made Emma stop breathing. "One day, someone connected to that deal will come back." Daniel slowly nodded. "Karen wasn't after your bakery. She was after this entire block." Across town, Karen sat inside the HOA office smiling. The demolition crew arrives at noon. One board member looked uncomfortable. "Karen, are we absolutely certain we can do this?" Karen slid a folder across the table. "The paperwork is perfect." None of them noticed one signature was missing. By 9 o'clock, word had spread. Customers began arriving. Not to buy bread, to stand outside. A retired firefighter, a school teacher, a young couple holding their toddler, an elderly widow carrying flowers. By 10, there were over 100 people. No one shouted. No one protested. They simply stood silently in front of Carter's bakery. Emma looked through the window, fighting tears. "My mother would have loved this." Daniel smiled. "She's still bringing people together." Then black SUVs rolled onto Maple Street. The same ones from the night before. 3 sharply dressed men stepped out. One approached Karen. "We're here to inspect the property." Karen smiled confidently. "Everything is ready." Emma noticed something strange. The oldest man wasn't looking at the building. He kept staring at the bakery sign. Then his eyes widened, almost as if he recognized it. Before anyone could speak, a familiar voice echoed across the street. "Hold everything." Every head turned. The elderly man in the faded navy jacket slowly walked toward the crowd. This time, he wasn't alone. Behind him were 2 county investigators and the town attorney. Karen's smile disappeared. The old man removed his cap. "My name is William Hayes. I was the county surveyor who signed the original property records 23 years ago." Silence. He looked directly at Karen. "I've been waiting a long time for someone to make this mistake." Karen laughed nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about." William calmly held up an old leather folder. "The property lines your HOA has been enforcing were altered years ago." The crowd gasped. He placed the original survey on the hood of a police vehicle. Every measurement matched Margaret's journal. The bakery had been legal all along. Not only that, half the HOA's enforcement actions over the years had been based on incorrect records. Karen's face turned pale. "That's impossible." William shook his head. "No, it's documented." One investigator stepped forward. "We've also received evidence that someone knowingly submitted false documents during multiple HOA disputes." He looked at Karen. "We'll need your office records." Karen suddenly realized what was happening. She turned toward her car. But before she could move, the HOA board members stopped her. One of them slowly removed the president's badge from her jacket. "We trusted you." Another whispered, "You lied to all of us." Emma watched everything unfold, not with anger, with sadness. Her mother had spent years protecting neighbors who never even knew it. Daniel handed Emma the cassette tape. "You should play it." Inside the bakery, an old recorder crackled to life. Margaret's warm voice filled the room. Emma, if this day ever comes, don't choose revenge. Emma covered her mouth. People will remember how you treated them, long after they forget who won. Tears rolled down her face. Keep baking. Keep loving people. That's how we win. Outside, the crowd waited quietly. Emma walked out carrying one tray. Fresh cinnamon rolls. She placed them on a folding table. These are for everyone. An elderly woman took the first one. I haven't tasted these since your mother made them. Soon, people laughed. They cried. They hugged one another. Maple Street smelled like fresh bread again. 3 months later, Carter's Bakery officially reopened. The line stretched around the block before sunrise. Above the counter hung 2 framed items. Margaret's favorite recipe and a small handwritten note. A bakery isn't built with flour. It's built with kindness. Every customer who entered asked about the story. Emma always smiled. She never talked about Karen. Instead, she told them about her mother. Because in the end, the bakery didn't survive because of lawyers, or paperwork, or investigations. It survived because one woman had spent 23 years feeding a community that refused to let her dream disappear. And sometimes, the sweetest victories aren't served in court. They're served warm, one cinnamon roll at a time.